And my dad was brilliant, but he could be quite intense at times.
Right.
And that was that. And I can remember being devastated.
Right. Okay.
I remember walking around the outside of the Reebok Stadium in tears, really.
Right.
We played the game on the Saturday. We had the meeting on Monday. I walked into the meeting, Port Vale player. Half an hour later, I walked out the stadium, knowing Port Vale didn't want me anymore. At the age of 18, as you mentioned now, I was at Wigan. I made my debut for Wigan at the age of 18, live on Sky Sports in the FA Cup at Leeds. There was a choice between Luke's football or my sister's swimming, say, then football would generally always come out on top.
Right, okay.
Right, well, why is Luke not coming out? Luke's a bit above his station now, isn't he? He's playing football, he's playing for Wigan, he doesn't want to be with us. Yeah, you know, I do the dream job, I play football every day. But that doesn't mean it doesn't come without the sacrifices and the hard times, So
we're really excited to have one of our closest friends on today's show. Not only is he one of the nicest guys you could possibly meet, he's one of the most dedicated and hard-working professionals too. We've closely followed your football journey with interest and excitement, watching many a game, even on the cold winter's nights in Accrington. So it's an absolute pleasure for me to say today we have Luke Joyce with us, sharing his secrets and sacrifices of his professional football journey so far. So Luke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
That's okay. Before we start, so the listeners can get to know you a little bit better, my children have come up with 10 quick fire would you rather questions. And because it's a family portrait, we have Harper and we have Sebastian, who are both massive football fans, but are also massive Luke Joyce fans as well. So we thought it was quite fitting that they'd ask the questions. So are you ready, guys?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Let's move this over for you. Here we go. Okay, Harper, are you going to start?
Would you rather game or read a book?
Game,
good choice.
Would you rather win $1 million or earn $1 million?
Earn $1 million.
Would you rather eat takeaway or eat out?
Oh, good question. Eat out.
Eat out.
Would you rather listen to Stormzy or Drake?
I'd say neither are my favourite, but I'll go Stormzy.
Stormzy.
Would you rather wear Nike or Adidas?
Nike all the way for me.
Would you rather own a Bugatti or a Lamborghini?
I don't really know much about cars, but I'll go Lamborghini. Sounds a bit more exotic, so I'll go for that.
Would you rather do cardio or lift weights?
I think I'm better at cardio, so I'll do cardio.
Would you rather play Spider-Man or the Incredible Hulk in a Marvel film?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I think that's the first one for Spider-Man. That's the one I would have chose, that one. Good choice.
Would you rather have Prime Messi or Prime Ronaldo?
Oh, Prime Messi.
Prime Messi.
Would you rather win the Premier League or the Champions League?
Premier League.
Brilliant.
That's one I'd
Love them answers. Right, guys, are you going to leave me and Luke to it now? Thank you, Harper. Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okie dokie. So as you know, the podcast is to shine the light on the secrets and sacrifices all families go through to allow children to become elite level athletes, something that's really close to our hearts at the moment with having 4 children currently on that journey. So the question I've been asking all our past guests is, where did your story begin? So could you take me back to your earliest childhood memories of when you was living at home and how things developed there, as I'm always curious to see whether these experiences shaped any of the athletes' journeys of where they are today.
Yeah, I think my first memories, earliest memories, were playing football at school in the playground, as you could do back then, just kicking a ball around during break time. And the dinner lady who was on duty at the time, her husband ran a local grassroots team, Sunday league team. So I think she obviously noticed that, for one, I could kick a ball. For two, that I enjoyed kicking a ball.
Yeah.
So she mentioned to me about her husband's team. So I'm thinking, obviously, I would have gone home, told my mum and dad. Obviously, they must have inquired about it. And it just started from there. That local team was Heinsford Juniors.
Right, okay.
And went down to training. And I can remember my dad saying, I've spoke to my dad recently about when I started playing in my younger years. And he said the coach did say, well, we have got a really talented team. So, if he's gonna kind of make it into the group, then he's gonna have to be of a good level. So obviously I went down to training. I think kind of that was it. Then I was in the team. Obviously I was talented enough. I was at a similar level to the boys that were already there, and I think that must have been around the age of 7, possibly.
Okay.
And that was my journey then at Heinsford Juniors, and that took me a couple of years later, at the age of 9, 10, into Bolton Wanderers School of Excellence.
Yeah.
And then after 6 to 12 months at Bolton School of Excellence, was deemed at that point not to be at the right level or not to be good enough.
Okay.
And then sort of restarted my journey at Heinsford Juniors, and that took me until I was sort of 14, 15, and I was invited into Wigan Athletic.
Right, okay.
And that opportunity came about by representing Wigan schoolboys, so a group of players that all studied within the Wigan Council, Wigan Borough, all went to Wigan high schools. They picked the best players, and I was captain of that. And our first game we played against St Helens, and I didn't know at the time, but my direct opposition in that game was the current centre midfielder for Wigan Athletic.
Right, okay.
I think under 14s or under 15s, and I think individually kind of totally dominated him really in the game. We won the game. I played well, and there was a Wigan scout watching it, and he invited me in off the back of that game, and kind of the rest is history really. And that was the start of my sort of professional career then.
Right, okay. So with regards to your training, was you doing, say, like extra little bits at home? Was you like kind of practicing in the garden, or did your kind of parents have you doing any extra kind of training as you was kind of growing up, or did you just kind of attend the ones where you was, say, like at your Heinsford or at your like kind of Wigan Athletic? Was you doing any extra at home as well, would you say?
Back then, you're looking at sort of, you're probably looking 28 years ago, 27 years ago now. So there was nothing like there is now in terms of your one-to-one coaching, your additional coaching. That just didn't exist. But what I do remember is the house that we lived in. My dad had built some goals, proper goals made out of metal or whatever. I don't know how he built them, but we had these goals were on our drive. And I can remember they had the orange netting, and I just loved whacking balls into, because they had the netting on it. Would only, as a child, you'd only play or you'd only shoot into a goal that had netting on during a match, really, at a weekend. So I used to just play on the drive, whacking the ball against the wall, whacking it into the goal. Where I lived, opposite to us, there was a couple of blocks of flats across the road, and they had some green grass area outside, and there was a couple of trees that we used to use as goals.
Right, okay.
We used to play on there with my mates. My dad used to take me down to local playing fields quite a lot, and we'd just kick balls about. And my dad was brilliant, but he could be quite intense at times.
Right, okay.
So we would go out and practice. We'd go and do different things. We'd play football a lot. Didn't have a computer console until I was probably early teens, maybe, if not sort of 10 at the earliest, 11. So there was literally not much else to do. It was either play with my two sisters, that I probably wasn't a massive fan of at the time, play out with my mates, or which generally involved football or just play on the drive on my own, whacking
Right.
a ball
Okay.
into the goal, playing football, kicking it against the wall, or
Yep.
or play with my dad at weekends because he was obviously busy with work during the week.
Yep.
It would be a collection of all that alongside training with Heinz playing at the weekend.
Yeah. Right. All right. Okay. So as you mentioned, your kind of football journey very much kind of started at Bolton Wanderers, and you mentioned you kind of signed there around about 8 years old, and you was there till about 10 or 11 when like you'd mentioned you got released. Can you take me back to that kind of time of how you kind of found out about that? Was that a face-to-face meeting that you had with them, or was it by like a letter? And on your kind of experience there, are you kind of conscious that you're kind of continuously like on trial, and how do you kind of feel throughout that kind of process and journey?
I think we found out via letter back
Right.
in
Okay.
those days. I'm pretty sure it was a letter, or might have been sort of on the day if a scout came to watch us.
Right. Okay.
Our team was really good. So our junior team, our Heinsford team,
Yeah.
we had a really good team. We didn't lose many matches whatsoever. Pretty much
Okay.
whatever league we was in, whatever cup we was in, we would win it. We had a really good reputation. We had some really good players. By all means, growing up, I probably wasn't the best player in that team. I wasn't the standout player in that team. I wasn't the most skillful player. But we had a really strong group of players. So scouts would often come to watch our games. So I'm guessing the initial sort of contact would have been made at the game from a Bolton scout. Then I do remember sort of getting letters through the post from Bolton.
Okay.
And back then it was a school of excellence rather than academy. So
Okay.
we would attend the Bolton games.
Yep.
The Bolton training sessions, but we'd also play. You'd carry on playing for your grassroots team. So we would complement our training at Heinsford with the Bolton Wanderers sessions. So I think there was maybe 4 or 5 of us who attended the Bolton sessions because we had a good group of players.
Yep.
And it was just the additional training with the 1 or 2 friendlies. And I don't really recall the friendlies being against other professional clubs.
Okay.
They might be against other grassroots teams, strong grassroots teams. But I do remember as a Bolton Wanderers fan feeling under a little bit of pressure in terms of Bolton are my team. Me and my dad had season tickets. We'd go watching home games at Burnham Park. We'd go to the occasional away games.
Yep.
I do remember wearing that badge with massive pride because we did get a training kit.
Yeah.
So as a Bolton fan, it was kind of the pinnacle for me at the age of 9 and 10.
Yeah. So do you remember the time where you got released from Bolton and how you was kind of feeling when, like you said, if with being like a Bolton fan and having like season tickets to watch them, can you remember the day where it kind of came to an end at Bolton and like how you felt, and did it kind of like knock your confidence after that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I remember. I can remember quite vividly. Bolton were just in the process of moving into the new stadium. So they'd gone from Burnham Park. They were moving into the Reebok Stadium, and we had, I think we must have had end of season reviews or end of season meetings.
Okay.
And me and my dad went in, and it was a cutthroat as well. Luke's not quite at the level we would like him to be at. He's not this whatever. We don't think he's good enough to be at Bolton Wanderers. So that was it, really. It was we'll monitor his progress. We'll keep trying to attend the games. Whether that actually happened, I've no idea. And that was that. And I can remember being devastated.
Right. Okay.
I remember walking around the outside of the Reebok Stadium in tears. Really.
Right.
That was my dream. And as far as I was concerned, that was my dream over.
Yeah.
Bolton don't want me. I'm not good enough. So, I was devastated. So that was my earliest feeling of a massive disappointment in football, because everything up to that point had been really positive. As successful as you could call it at grassroots level in terms of winning loads of games of football. Winning leagues, winning cups. So that was a huge setback at that point.
Okay. So with your professional journey in your younger kind of days, would you say that you had, like, say, a normal kind of childhood? And I asked the question because various guests that we've had on in the past have kind of spoke about missing, say, family holidays because of fear of a trialist saying coming in and taking their place, or once they finish training in an evening, they'd need to like kind of refuel and get an early night, so they wouldn't kind of go out with friends. They wouldn't be able to kind of go out at a weekend because they might be kind of traveling away. So would you say you had a normal kind of childhood, or was it just more normal for the situation that you was in with being on the football journey?
I think I had, compared to young players now at that age,
Yep.
I had a very, very normal, happy childhood, as most boys who like football would have had at that age.
Okay.
My life revolved around football, but it revolved around the enjoyment of football. It was playing with my mates on a Saturday and Sunday for Heinsford. It involved playing for school, primary school, high school. It involved representing Wigan town team, Wigan schoolboys as captain. We had the league that we played in with Heinsford. We had a representation league, so interleague team. I was captain of that. So all these things that I did as a child then, that players, I would guess now, mainly in academies, don't have the option of doing.
Okay.
I had a very normal childhood. I could pretty much play where I wanted with whoever I wanted, and had some amazing experiences. Made some fantastic friendships with people that I still speak with today who used to play together as kids. So I had an incredibly normal childhood, playing football, like I said, when I wanted and with whoever I wanted, without having to permission off a professional team or a professional club.
Okay.
Up until I was sort of 14, 15, until I mentioned previously about going into Wigan Athletic, and that's where it kind of changed then.
Right. Okay. Okay. So then, from, as you mentioned, you'd played for Bolton Wanderers, and then you went on to sign for Wigan Athletic. You made an FA Cup appearance against Leeds United. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a 3-3 draw at the time. Something that yourself and your family must have been like immensely kind of proud of. You then signed for Carlisle and had a couple of loan deals, played for Accrington, Port Vale, AFC Fylde, currently at Ratcliffe FC now, where I think it's Bobby Grant, who you used to play with at Accrington, who's the manager there. So this is like a two-part kind of question. How do you kind of personally cope with the highs and lows of signing for a club, and then your contract coming to an end, and then the club possibly like kind of releasing you or saying that they're not wanting you to kind of continue with that team? And then the second part is there ever been any times where you felt like kind of giving up football in your kind of journey because of these like kind of rejections that possibly kind of hit you quite kind of hard?
Yeah, I think first part of the question, in terms of dealing with being at clubs, getting to the point where your contract's coming to an end, it's expiring. Do the club want to keep me? It is difficult. It's difficult in a footballing sense.
Yeah.
But also in terms of just general life, obviously, throughout your career, you know, I've met my now wife Emily. We've got 2 children. Like everybody else, you've got mortgages to pay, you've got bills to pay. You know, you want to go on holiday, you want to do things with your children. So it's hard. It just makes planning hard in terms of you're on a contract. Your contract might only be 12 months. You know, if you're lucky, you might get 2 years. Yeah. You know, at League One and League Two level, where I've spent most of my career, if you get a contract for 2 years, you're generally quite lucky. If you get anything beyond that, you're very, very lucky. Once you start getting to the age of past 28, 29, you're lucky to get anything longer than 12 months because you're deemed to be coming towards the end of your career. Clubs don't want to commit to you longer than 12 months because you're at a risk because you're getting a bit old. Your age can then be used against you rather than for you. You're not necessarily experienced. You're more of a veteran. So it is difficult. It's, you know, you might be playing for a team like I've experienced. You know, a couple of years ago at Port Vale, I've been there for 2.5 years. I've played a lot of games in that time. the manager changed early February. So if you think you've only got February, March, April, you've got maybe 12, 13 weeks to try and impress that manager. I played near enough every game under that manager, bar one, which I missed through a slight injury. And you get to the end of that contract, you finish the last game of the season, which is generally the first Saturday in May. We played that game. We had a meeting on the Monday morning. Still didn't know where my future was going to lie. I didn't know if I was getting a new contract at Port Vale. I've still got a mortgage to pay. I've still got bills to pay.
Yep.
We played the game on the Saturday. We had the meeting on the Monday. I walked into the meeting, a Port Vale player. Half an hour later, I walked out the stadium, knowing Port Vale didn't want me anymore, and I had potentially 6 weeks left of pay.
Yeah.
So you then got the clock's ticking.
Yeah.
You've got 6 weeks now to find a new job.
Yeah.
And that's within an industry how many millions of people want to be a professional footballer to start with. I don't know what the stats are exactly, but I think it's 0. something percent of people who actually become a professional footballer.
Yep.
And then at the age of, I must have been 33 then.
Yep.
And then trying to find another club who's willing to sign me.
Yeah. So is this then when the support network around you is like massively important for you? So like you mentioned about kind of Emily, your wife, and like kind of parents, is this when they kind of come around you and really kind of support you and kind of pick you up and help you to kind of go again? Or are you of the mindset, like with the other kind of athletes that we spoke to, that you're that kind of driven and motivated that I don't suppose you get used to the kind of knockbacks. However, you're more kind of accustomed to them and you know how to kind of react to them, so you are prepared to kind of go again.
Yeah, I think at that point I'm experienced enough to know what football's about. I know the game. Was it a huge shock that I got released or got told I wasn't being offered a new contract? No. Did I expect to be offered a new contract? I thought they would.
Yeah.
Just based on my previous 3 years and that season, playing the amount of games I did. Do I understand why they didn't? Yeah, I can understand why. I'm a player coming towards the end of career. It's a new manager. They've got different ideas, different plans. So I totally understand all that. I think at that point, I draw on previous experiences. So that wouldn't be, it's not the first time I've left the club because a manager wasn't offering me a new contract.
Yep.
I've left clubs before through my own choice because I felt my future would be better elsewhere.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm drawing all them experiences. I remember obviously Bolton was the first time that I got released, but at the age of 18, as you mentioned there, I was at Wigan. I made my debut for Wigan at the age of 18, live on Sky Sports in the FA Cup at Leeds. At Ellen Road, a proper football club, proper ground. There was 20,000 fans there. I come on a sub. The game went to penalties. It was an amazing debut playing for a professional club who were currently, I went on the pitch with a Premier League badge on my sleeve. Yeah. And the FA Cup, everyone wants to play in it. It was a dream. And then, if you're talking about setbacks, that was a massive high. 2 weeks later, I got told I was being released.
Yeah.
So if you go from that high of making my debut, everything that I dreamed of, I'd signed at Wigan at 14. I'd worked my way through the youth team, playing for the reserve team, training for the first team. And then I think I made my debut at Leeds on Sky. Obviously, my family was there to watch. This massive high. You're getting all this attention from friends, people seeing you play on telly. Luke's achieved his dream. In the middle of that, I was on the bench against Liverpool in the Premier League. Didn't make an appearance, but I was involved in the matchday squad against Liverpool, who had Steven Gerrard playing from. And then a week later, then be told, "Oh well, thanks for everything, Luke, but we just don't think you're good enough to play at Wigan," which they're probably right. They're not wrong. They were in the Premier League, and at that point in football, it was youth team, first team. You didn't have under 18s, under 21s, all that. You didn't have that process. It was literally, you come out of the youth team. Are you good enough to play in the first team? If not, then we're going to cast you aside. And well, that was a huge setback at that point because I didn't have the experience that I did sort of 15 years later at Port Vale,
Yeah.
I couldn't go on that. It was like, wow, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I've been to college part time, but I've not really taken it that serious because, I was at Wigan. I was going to be a footballer. That was the dream. That's what, that was my destiny type of thing.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So that then involved going on trial at Burnley for 3 weeks. Didn't get offered a contract. I then went up to Carlisle where thankfully I played a couple of games in the reserves and it went really well. And then I got offered another opportunity to be a professional footballer. And, that's kind of where I would say my football journey as a professional really got started.
Okay. Well, say the more we kind of speak to professionals like yourself, the more the kind of journey does seem it's a roller coaster kind of journey. I mean, we had Manny Onarise on a couple of shows ago, and a similar kind of story to yourself. Then he was at West Ham at the time, and it was when Sam Allardyce was the manager. He was only in the youth team. However, he must have shown like kind of promise and how well he was kind of progressing and kind of doing it. And he got invited to train with the first team. He did like the pre-season with them. It was in a couple of like the first team, like kind of match day squads. However, Sam Allardyce left and Slaven Bilic came in. He mustn't have kind of seen what Sam Allardyce had kind of seen with Mane. Only probably really saw him as a youth team player at the time. And for Manny then, he said like he was almost in a bubble of thinking like, wow, I'm a Premier League player now. I think he made his first team squad appearance against Arsenal. It was. So he was in that bubble of thinking like, wow, I've made it now. This is like amazing. A new manager came in, and again, they obviously didn't have the same opinion as what Sam did, and from there, his career went to like kind of different clubs. However, when he was at Rotherham, he spoke quite openly about the kind of the darker times of it, where he was feeling a little bit depressed, and his wife or partner was coming up to try and like kind of meet him because he was like kind of living away. So it does seem quite. Like you mentioned, quite a tough, cutthroat kind of sport and industry to be in, and one that obviously builds like a huge kind of resilience up against it, and the mentality of like kind of the athletes that we kind of speak to are very much the same. You may get knocked down, but then I think because you love the sport and the kind of industry that you're in so much, and you've dedicated so much of your lives to it, you just keep kind of going again and you keep going again. So they are amazing kind of stories to like kind of listen to. So with that support kind of network, did your parents fully support you on your kind of footballing journey? Obviously, we've kind of mentioned about the kind of highs and lows and the kind of risk element and the uncertainty of it. I think I was reading a stat the other day where I think it's 1% of 9-year-old boys at academies actually make it to be a professional footballer. So the percentages, they don't make kind of great reading. Were your mum and dad like fully on board with your kind of football journey, or was there any kind of conversations that they had where they wanted you to kind of go down a different route?
Yeah, fully support that. Mum and dad fully 100% supported me in terms of do what you want to do. If you love football and you've got a passion for it, play football. My mum and dad, as you'll know, as a parent yourself of kids who enjoy sports, and same with my two, he took me everywhere. He'd finish work early to be home, to take me to train. It would be, Saturday and Sunday when we had matches, they took precedent. We had one car. So it wasn't a case of, we'll take one car, my mum and my sister will take the other. It was probably at my sister's detriment of, well, Luke's got a match here, we're taking the car to football. That was it, really.
Yeah.
And it was unbeknown at the time to me, my sisters were making sacrifices at the time,
right,
to allow me to go to training, to allow me to play games.
Okay.
If it was a choice between Luke's football or my sister's swimming, say, then football would generally always come out on top.
Right. Okay.
At the time, as a child, you don't really understand that. You don't really
Yeah.
sort of process that.
Yeah.
But as a family, I had massive support. Football played a huge part
Yeah.
in our house, in our lives. With regards to school, they were very much of you need to work hard at school as well,
Yeah.
in terms of don't just rely on football.
Yeah.
You need to take the same attitude, determination, application that you show at football,
Yeah.
and take that into school, because that is a massive trait of my personality. As I've said before, in regards to football, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the quickest, I'm not the most skillful, but my whole sort of game is based around attitude, application,
Okay.
dedication, trying to do the simple things well. I'm not a flashy type of player. I'm certainly not a Lamborghini or a Bugatti. I'm a Vauxhall Insignia or a Ford Focus. That is me, but I'm quite happy with them. And that was the same in terms of anything that I would sort of turn my hand to. If it was school, then I wouldn't be top of the class, but I would work hard and I would try and do my best type thing. So it was massive that I tried to keep that going. My mum was big on that, especially. It was, do your things at school, and parents' evening was always big, and we had to make sure that was right. And there were occasions where if my behaviour wasn't right or things at school weren't quite right, then I wouldn't be allowed to play football, which was, that was the ultimate punishment for me. It was not playing football, not going training, not playing a match, and that would cut me up inside if I couldn't play football. So that was kind of always the threat, in terms of if school wasn't right, then look, football will take a back seat. So they were big on that. So in terms of support with football was huge, but also there's also one eye on the other things as well.
Yeah. Okay. So throughout your journey, with all the kind of like sacrifices that you've kind of made, what would you say would be the biggest sacrifice that you've had to make on your football journey?
Oh, biggest sacrifice. It's a tough one, because there's lots and lots of sacrifices that you have to make.
Would you say it's an accumulation of lots of little sacrifices along the way, rather than it's not seeing, say, family at a weekend? Is it all the little sacrifices during, like, kind of the weeks and the months that...
I would say so. It's being asked to be a best man at your mate's wedding, but you can't go because you've got a match. It's being asked to be an usher, but you can't go. It's can't go away with family because it's during season. It's you can't be at home for your little boy's second birthday because you've got Yeovil away and you need to travel Friday morning and you're not getting back till 10, 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. It's having from the 1st of July, and this is just comparing it to other workplaces, and I know people have sacrifices in all sort of elements and jobs they do, but it's not being able to actually take a day off from the 1st of July until the last game of the season. You'll get days off, don't get me wrong, but unless it's special circumstances, a funeral, something that is out of the ordinary, you're not picking and choosing your day off. You might get a Wednesday off. You generally get Sunday off, but if you're playing Saturday, you got a game Tuesday, then you're more than likely be training Sunday. I would say, like you said, it's an accumulation of lots of little things that people don't always think about. I've had friends and family members who have arranged holidays or weddings around my football season. We can't do this because Luke won't be able to make it, so let's do it. Let's do it in June instead of doing it in April, or things like that. That's, I think, maybe people take for granted in other walks of life. And I do the dream job. I play football every day, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come without the sacrifices and the hard times. So I would definitely say it's an accumulation of things.
And is that something that kind of friends and family are sympathetic on, or have you ever kind of felt that, not that it was an excuse, but have you ever kind of felt that there's been any like kind of fallouts or kind of disagreements because it is so kind of structured, and like you said, from from kind of like, say, July to the end of the season, like kind of May time, you can't really kind of have any time off. Does that kind of put a strain on like kind of like friend relationships or like kind of the family kind of network, or is that something that people just understand, or does that take time for them to kind of understand that this is how the journey's going to be?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head saying it takes time to understand. I think especially obviously being the talented footballer in school, you are a popular member of the school.
Yep.
I think that probably goes in many schools. If you're good at sport and you're a standout performer in sports, be it right or wrong, you are elevated into a popular member of the school community, which I was myself. Once you then leave school at 15, 16, and I'm pretty much as an apprentice at Wigan back in the day, you're a full-time employee.
Yeah.
From the age of 16 to 18, that would have been probably my longest working days in terms of in football. You were the first people in the building to get everything ready. You were the last people to leave, and you weren't leaving until the place was spotless, and you cleaned up, and you cleaned boots, and you'd clean changing rooms, and you collected all the kit in. They were the longest hours of my working life. And at that age where you're at 16, 17, people are discovering alcohol. You know, you look old enough to get into a bar and a nightclub, so people are going out. You've left school, you've got the freedom to do that. Your friends are going out on Friday night, Saturday nights. They didn't understand me not being able to go out on a Friday night because I've got a game the next day.
Yeah.
Or I can't go out on a Saturday because I played a game and I'm not getting home till whatever time and I'm knackered. And I might have training then on a Sunday. I was like, well, why is Luke not coming out? Luke's a bit above his station now, isn't he? He's playing football, he's playing for Wigan, or he doesn't want to be with us. It wasn't that. It was, if I start to come with you and doing what you're doing, that will then affect me on the journey that I'm on in terms of trying to achieve what I want to achieve and become 100%. A footballer. So those relationships were strained, and probably a lot of them were lost because I went on my journey, they went on their journey, and as you'll find in any workplace, you then become friends with other people. You find new friendship groups because, you know, my football mates were on that journey because we were training together every day, we were playing together. You then build that bond, whereas my mates were doing what they were doing. And it was hard to keep that circle of friends because we were just doing totally different things. And they couldn't understand why I wasn't at a person's 18th on a Friday night or a Saturday night. They just couldn't understand that. So that was tough. But I think people have learned to understand why. And those, you know, your close friends stay with you. I know a hell of a lot of people in football and outside of football, but I wouldn't say I've got a massive, real close group of friends. Because within football, I might have been, for example, at Port Vale for 3 years. But within that 3 years, a lot of people come and go as they do in football. You spend so long with your teammates. You know, you might train with them Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You might travel down to London with them Friday. You stay with them Friday night. You're on the bus all day Saturday. You play your games. You build up these relationships. And then one day a manager tells you you're not there anymore. So you go from one extreme to being with somebody every day to then the next week not seeing them because you're not part of that club anymore. So it is a balance.
So is the show nears an end? So from playing in the FA Cup, like you mentioned, to playing in EFL Cup matches against Liverpool at Anfield, to marking David Silva at the Etihad against Manchester City.
Trying to mark him.
To making over 600 professional football appearances, which I think in itself shows massive dedication and commitment in itself, like I say. Would you say climbing the mountain is worth the view?
I think absolutely. I've got some amazing memories to look back on, and like you mentioned there, that the debut at Ellen Road on Sky, the night at Anfield playing Liverpool and taking them all the way to a penalty shootout, in front of a full Anfield was amazing. Playing at the Etihad, the standout moments that people look at in the pictures I've got and the shirts and things are amazing. But just the whole journey from starting out as an apprentice at Wigan to where I'm at now, coming towards the end of that journey has been amazing. It's something I've loved, and it's something I have been very lucky to do. And it's something I wouldn't change for the world. The ups and downs, the setbacks. There's probably been more downs than there has been ups. There's probably been maybe more negatives than positive things I've not done that I would like to do. I've never played at Wembley. I've not won a league title. I've not been promoted. But then on the same time, I've played a hell of a lot of the games. I've never been relegated, so that's something I look at fondly. So it's something I have loved every second of it, and I think it shaped me as a person that I am today in terms of the negative experiences have really helped me. I can take criticism; that's not a problem. I'm used to doing that. I have a couple of thousand people throwing a load of abuse at me on a regular. That's a regular Saturday afternoon for me, so that's not a problem. I can deal with that, and I think there's lots of things I've learned and that I can take on now in the next sort of chapter of my life when the playing career comes to an end.
Okay. So at the end of every show, we have a tradition, and we ask all our guests if they have any famous quotes or philosophies that they use on a daily basis. For instance, one of our last guests, Tom Smith, a professional cricketer for Gloucestershire, he says there's two people that you'll meet in life. He says there's the people that tell you the truth, and there's people that will tell you the time. Meaning there's lots of people that will tell you what you want to hear as you're on your journey, but this necessarily doesn't drive performance. However, he believes more in honesty and sometimes telling those hard truths. Something that really resonates with him now. He started his kind of coaching journey, and something that he tries to do with all his players that he's teaching. So do you have any kind of famous quotes or philosophies that kind of stick in your mind that you kind of work by?
Yeah, I think for me, like we spoke about before, in terms of my profile of as a player and a person is that hard work, dedication, the attitude, the professionalism. For me, it'll be hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. For me, lots of players are born with a natural talent and a gift, and I've come across loads of players who are better than me in terms of ability-wise, skill-wise, that type of stuff. Bigger, quicker, stronger, but they've not had a professional career because they've just not worked hard enough, or they've not dealt with the setbacks, or they've when things have got tough for them, they can't respond and sort of rise up against it. So I think that quote for me, definitely, in terms of what fits me as a person, what fits me as a player. I think, when I was at Wigan in the youth team, I must have come across sort of 30, 36 players who were all deemed good enough to be in Wigan's under-18s. And I would imagine maybe 2 have gone on to make professional appearances.
Okay.
So it shows you that you might have the talent, but if you're not willing to work hard and dedicate yourself, then it doesn't guarantee you any success. Yeah.
Okay. So as the show comes to an end, we just want to thank you so much for being a guest on Elite Children, a Family Portrait. I'm sure the listeners can definitely see they're not alone in their journey in raising elite level children. Good luck with the final stages of the season, and with any future ventures that you're engaged with. I know personally at the moment you're working really, really hard on your Luke Joyce Pro Football Academy. Can you just tell the listeners a little bit more about this and the reasons behind it, and if you've got any kind of future plans for that?
So the Luke Joyce Pro Football Academy started near enough 4 years ago to the day, actually. Back in 2019, I was playing at Port Vale at the time, full time. And as football is a short career, you've got to try and plan ahead. You can't play forever, and there's no guarantees that you're going to stay within a role in full-time professional football. So I was planning for that. Obviously, I've got a massive love and passion for football. I enjoy coaching. I enjoy being with people. I enjoy meeting new people. And I suppose I wanted to give a little bit back to the local community. I wanted to help players who have got a love and a passion for the game, but haven't had the opportunity maybe to be exposed to a higher level of coaching that maybe they will get if they were invited into a professional academy. Obviously, grassroots football is pretty much run by volunteers, which is amazing. Without these volunteers, lots of young players wouldn't get the opportunity to play week in, week out. But I wanted to try and offer something that was maybe a little bit more elitist, maybe a little bit more above that. And that's no disrespect to anybody, but that's me wanting to draw on all the experiences that I've had in my career, the coaching badges that I've got, and then provide an environment and opportunities for children to come and learn from that experience that in addition to what they're doing, because I love grassroots football. It's some of my fondest memories in football. So they still play for the grassroots team of a weekend. They still train with the grassroots team during the week, and they attend our sessions to supplement that. So they're an additional footballing activity, additional footballing training session that works alongside that. So we've been going for 4 years now. We started off with one age group, and now we have age groups going from under 7s all the way to under 15s. We have sort of 230, 240 children attending our sessions now during the week. And alongside that, we provide opportunities for them to play against professional clubs with the aim of giving them those experiences. If they've never been in that professional academy environment, then they're not quite sure of what level they need to get at, if that's their dream, if that's where they want to be, if that's where they aspire to be. So it gives them that experience of being within that environment against these players. So then that gives them an idea of where they need to get at, where they need to be in terms of if they're going to be invited into those academies, but also if they do go into those matches and do well and impress the professional coaches, then there are opportunities then to be invited into these clubs, which we have experience, which have led on to sort of 9-10 players being signed at professional football clubs through the Luke Joyce Academy.
So is this going to just be, say, Northwest based, or have you got any plans to kind of roll it out like kind of wider, would you say?
At the minute, it's Northwest based. It's you know, I'm in charge of it. I'm in control of it. It's something that I've set up that will support myself and my family. Hopefully, once my playing career comes to an end. That's not to say I don't want to be a manager or a coach in full-time football, but as everybody knows, there's no guarantees in football. So I wanted to be in charge of something and have control of something that is for me, and something that I can be in control of, that I'm not relying on people for other opportunities. You know, hopefully there will be scope to take it elsewhere, to expand a little bit, to give players in other areas those same opportunities. You know, and hopefully we can progress it to where we're offering opportunities to younger players and under 7s, and also players who are older than sort of 15 and 16, and provide, you know, education and footballing opportunities for, you know, children aged between, you know, 16 and 18.
Well, no, my two boys, Mason and Sebastian, they've been attending for probably over about a year now, I'd probably say, and I think more than anything, they just thoroughly enjoy doing the sessions. I mean, for us, they're always like kind of really well organised and like kind of managed. The communication's like kind of amazing that you give, and like you kind of touch on there, it does supplement existing kind of sessions that they kind of go to. But I think the added bonus is that it's more that academy kind of standard rather than like kind of the grassroots. So it's almost kind of bridging the gap between like kind of the grassroots and then the boys going straight to, like, say, a DC or straight into the academy. So I know from our personal experience, the boys have thoroughly enjoyed it, and they've had loads of opportunities playing against various kind of professional teams, and it's quite nice to kind of see what standard those boys are at, so you can kind of compare. And obviously for you guys doing the kind of training, then you can kind of tailor it and kind of tweak it to suit the needs of the boys as well. So we love attending like the sessions, and it's well worth a try for anyone who wants extra like kind of football sessions to supplement what they've already got. So yeah, it's great. So to finish off now, from knowing you personally and having an insight into your football journey, words spring to mind like dedication, resilience, professionalism, humility. They all spring to mind, and with a mindset like that, I think any future plans or projects that you're involved with will be a huge success. So Luke Joyce, thank you very, very much for being on Elite Children, A Family Portrait.
You're very, very well. Pleasure to be here, and I appreciate having me, and I appreciate your time. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.